follow closely, explaining everything on the board. We go through things faster that way. I do want to, first of all, round up something from yesterday before starting on this. And this is about vritti and tattva pertaining to the mind. This word vritti, manaso vritti, you'll run across in Srila Prabhupada's books. And this is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 5th canto. I don't know if right now I can locate the verse to actually read it to you. I did mark it, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, so I suppose I'll just explain it. Oh, here we are. Yes. Krishna provides. Right in front of me. So, vritti tattva. So vritti refers to the conditioned engagements of the mind. And Srimad Bhagavatam 5:11-9 lists 11 such vrittis. So this term, manasa vritti, then this is referring to the material activities, because literally in Sanskrit, vritti, the word means occupation or engagement. So the mind is materially engaged when it is involved with these 11 vrittis. So what are these 11 vrittis? When the mind is absorbed in hearing, that means material sound vibration, touching, seeing, tasting, and smelling, then it is engaged in sense objects. So these are hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, smelling, 5 tanmatras, objects of the senses, 5 kinds of vrittis. When the mind is absorbed in grasping, walking, talking, urination, defecation, and sexual intercourse, these are the engagements of the karmendriyas, 5 kinds of active senses. So 5 more vrittis for 10. Then, when the mind is engaged in mental speculation, it means, in other words, when the mind is engaged in itself, you see, when we speculate, when we think deeply, then the mind withdraws from activity and external perception, and is just moving within itself in speculation, and also arising with that speculation are feelings of self-importance. So this means that the mind is engaged in false ego. So speculation, false ego, this is lumped together as an 11th vritti, self-absorption, we would call it. Self-absorption. So these are 11 kinds of material engagements of the mind, and this manasa vritti is compared in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:11-8. There's a very nice analogy here, and I want to present this to you, hopefully to settle all of these problems because I notice it keeps coming up, of distinguishing between the material mind and the pure spiritual mind. We have to again remind you that the term mind, conventionally it means, of course, this subtle covering of consciousness, but there is a pure mind. And furthermore, this material mind can be purified. Srila Prabhupada used to use this term, Krishnaize, like this body, this gross physical body, Prabhupada said, can be Krishnaized by engagement of this body solely in Krishna consciousness. And you know the example of iron and fire? Everyone must have heard that. Fire is the fire of Krishna consciousness. Iron means matter. This body is matter. But there is gross matter and subtle matter. So this includes also the mind. So if iron, piece of iron, is placed in fire, what happens? The iron becomes red hot. That means it takes on the quality of fire. And Srila Prabhupada used to say, if you don't believe that, then you touch red hot iron and see what happens to your finger. It's the same effect as if you touch the fire. You get burned. So the body, gross and subtle, Prabhupada said, can be Krishnized if we fully engage mind and body in devotional service. So when the mind is Krishnized, this subtle covering of the soul, then it exhibits a quality known as tattva. Tattva means truth or reality. And this is the original state of the mind. The original mind is pure, the pure consciousness of the soul. So even this present mind that we have can become just like that if it is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So anyway, there's a nice example, Srimad Bhagavatam 5.11.8, to help us understand these two states, vritti, manaso vritti, material engaged mind, and tattva, the pure state of the mind. And that is of a lamp, a ghee lamp. So a ghee lamp you're all familiar with. Now if a ghee lamp is not properly made, if there's some defect in the materials, in the cotton, or the ghee is unclean, so when the ghee lamp burns, the burning is dirty. It creates a lot of smoke, the flame sputters, the ghee lamp, the brass lamp becomes blackened. So such a lamp is not very useful. It creates a lot of smoke. It means it turns our ceiling black, so much smoke is coming, and doesn't give much light because it's sputtering, it's not burning properly. And we find we have to relight such a ghee lamp again and again. It goes out. So it's just trouble. So this is the impure state of the mind. It's not giving much light, only giving light on gross material objects, not real transcendental knowledge. It's blackening us, you see, because it's producing all kinds of impure thoughts which contaminate us. This is the impure mind. But when that ghee lamp is made nicely with very pure ghee and clean cotton and made expertly, and then it burns brightly with minimum smoke, minimum blackness. It's useful, it gives light. We offer such nice lamp to the Lord, so it's a perfect object to be engaged in devotional service. So I wanted to touch on that before going on. That's an important point. Now, as I told you yesterday, today we're going to be talking about the manifestation of the stages of consciousness from Vishnu Tattva, from the Lord Himself. And so I've given this chart here, and I'm going to explain it. So I have some verse references here, so that you'll not think that I'm just producing this out of the air. Everything I'm presenting is from Srila Prabhupada's books. Here's from a purport from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 5, verses 29 and 30. I'll read it. The Supreme Living Entity, Krishna, eternally manifests Himself as the Chatur Vyuha, or quadruple, fourfold, plenary expansion. The purport of this prayer is that one should give up his false ego and pray to this Chatur Vyuha by offering them obeisances. Although the Absolute Truth is one without a second, the Absolute Truth displays His unlimited opulences and potencies by expanding Himself in innumerable plenary forms, of which the Chatur Vyuha is a principal expansion. The original being is Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. When the Godhead manifests his primeval energies and opulences, he is called Sankarshan. Pradyumna is the basis of the Vishnu expansion, who is the soul of the entire universe. And Aniruddha is the basis of the personal manifestation of Vishnu as the supersoul of every living entity within the universe. Among the four plenary expansions mentioned here, the original expansion is Vasudeva, and the other three are considered to be particular manifestations of him. When the living entity forgets that both he himself as well as the material nature are meant for the Lord's service, the quality of ignorance becomes prominent, and the conditioned entity desires to become himself the master. So now from, I'll read translation of Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi, chapter 2, text 56. The first Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu, in the causal ocean, who is the creator of the aggregate material energy, is an expansion of Sankarshan, who is the second of the Chaturvyuha. The second Purusha, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, is an expansion of Pradyumna, who is the third of the Chaturvyuha. And the third Purusha, Chirodakashayi Vishnu, or Supersoul, is an expansion from Aniruddha. So, now you know that I'm not pulling this out of a hat. And furthermore, we have some quotations from Srila Prabhupada that, Vasudeva, I've put in here. Vasudeva is Krishna in his extra Raja Leela. So, Srila Prabhupada explains that when Krishna apparently leaves Vrindavan to go to Mathura and then to Dwarka, actually Krishna remains in Vrindavan, but in a form called the Bhavarup. He's existing within the hearts of his devotees in their ecstatic love in separation. This is called Viraha Bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his 7th of 8 Ashtika prayers, prays Govinda Virahena Me. So Virahena, Viraha, O Lord Govinda, feeling your separation. So then he's crying torrents of tears, and his hair is standing up on end. The ecstasies are manifesting. Shunyayetam Jagat Sarvam. He feels the world is vacant. So this is the quintessential, very fancy word, most essential expression of this Viraha Bhakti. This is the mood in which Krishna remains in Vrindavan after he apparently leaves to go to Dwarka. He's there, but in this Bhava Rupa, within the hearts of all his devotees. So he's not seen externally, but he's there. He's there even more, because the devotees are practically dying from love of Krishna in his separation. So then who is going to Mathura and Dwarka? That is Vasudeva, who is, again, that is Krishna expanded beyond his Vrajalila. The Lord actually never leaves Vrindavan, but he expands as Vasudeva to go to Mathura and Dwarka. Also, we have, I'll read from here, Srila Prabhupada writes that, yes, in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.1.34 purport, that Lord Narayan, the Lord of Vaikuntha, is an expansion or manifestation of Vasudeva. And yes, no, sorry, that's Bhagavatam 1, 26 through 30 purport. And in Bhagavatam 3.1.34 purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Lord Ramachandra is this original Vasudeva, and his transcendental brothers are the other expansions. You know, Lord Ramachandra has three brothers. There are 4 altogether. So Vasudeva is Ramachandra, Sankarshan is Lakshman, Pradumna is Bharata, and Aniruddha is Shatrughna, in their original forms of the Chatravyuha. So also I was mentioning the creation of the Lord, Shrishti Stiti Pralaya Lila. This is another Lila of the Lord, and here also the Lord is manifesting his Chatravyuha for the purpose of creation. So this is what we're looking at today. We're looking at how creation unfolds in 4 stages as manifest from this Chaturvyuha. So, aspect of the Lord, this category. So in the Brahman stage, that means the liberated stage, Vasudeva is predominant. And this state of consciousness associated with Vasudeva is called Turiya. I've explained this Turiya. It means above the modes of nature. The Turiya in Sanskrit means the 4th stage. So before the living entity enters into the process of material creation, he is with Lord Vasudeva in the Turiya state. And in this state of consciousness there is knowledge called Nirupadika Gyan. Upadika means this body. So there is knowledge, there is Gyan without embodiment. And that means without a gross physical body or a subtle mental body. There is direct, Srila Bhaktivinoda calls it, Thakur calls it Svata Siddha Gyan. There is Gyan which is part and parcel of the Siddha, the liberated, perfected state of the jiva. Svata Siddha Gyan. Krishna says, Pratyashavagamam Dharmam. Direct perception through transcendental realization. So this is the Turiya state, and it is known as Brahmabhuta. There is no physical embodiment whatsoever. The soul is shining in his own transcendental form. Now we have to mention that this is very, when we say Brahmabhuta, this is not necessarily speaking of the Siddhadeya, the spiritual body within Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Brahmabhuta can refer also to a living entity floating in the rays of the Brahmajyoti, or can refer to Vaikuntha, in Vaikuntha. So this is a general term for the transcendental state of the living entity, above and beyond the modes of nature. So Brahmabhuta, and this stage of creation is, or it's not actually creation yet, it's just Brahman, the stage of spiritual existence. So then, when Lord Vasudeva recognizes that there are living entities, that there are jivas, jiva atmas, who desire to become independent from him, who desire to try to be Lord themselves, then he expands. So this second expansion is in the Upanishads known as Ishvara. And then this is explained in Vaishnava Shastra, like the Pancharatrika literature. This is Sankarshan. And I've mentioned down here, Sankarshan, as you've heard already, from Sankarshan expands Mahavishnu. So the state of consciousness associated with Mahavishnu is called Pragya, and in parentheses I put Susupti. Susupti means unconsciousness, total unconsciousness. Now we have to, I'd like to read something here. Yes, the Adi Purusha, the original personality of Godhead, Krishna, Govinda, expands himself as Mahavishnu. After the annihilation of this cosmic manifestation, he keeps himself in transcendental bliss. The word Yoganidram is used in reference to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. one should understand that this nidra or sleep is not like our nidra in the mode of ignorance. You see, so the Lord is situated in this pragya. This pragya means internal self-realization. In this state, the consciousness is not connected with senses, even with mind. The consciousness is like yogis, great yogis, they attain this state. So it is a state of trance, a trance state. And in that state, the bliss of the jiva is realized. So within this universe, there are great yogis living in Janaloka, Tapaloka, Brahmaloka. So their material activities are totally suspended. Because at this stage, Sankarshan Mahavishnu, the material manifestation has not come out yet, or is just coming out, but the specifics of creation have not yet appeared. So there is no mind, there is no sense objects yet, there is no material manifestation yet. So in this stage of consciousness, consciousness is there, but it is suspended, it is not engaged in anything external. So great yogis achieve this, and then they attain a state of consciousness known as yogi pratyaksha. I put this here because this is also a very exalted state of consciousness that one can achieve here, and they actually realize, because Prabhupada says at the end of the cosmic manifestation, when this universe dissolves, then Lord Brahma and the self-realized yogis, they go consciously to Mahavishnu and they have his darshan. So it's not that they're just sucked into total unconsciousness. They retain their pratyaksha, their power to see, yogi pratyaksha. So this is what happens when a yogi becomes super soul realized in the heart. He has darshan of the super soul. And super soul is not different from Mahavishnu. These different Vishnu states, they're all the same actually, but they just have different functions. So Prabhupada is writing here that Mahavishnu, there is his state of yoga nidra, and then there is the ordinary state of the deep mode of ignorance in which there's just no consciousness. So the Lord is always situated in transcendence, Srila Prabhupada writes. He is Sat Chitananda, eternally in bliss, and thus he is not disturbed by sleep like ordinary human beings. It should be understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in transcendental bliss in all stages. Sri Madhvacharya concisely states that the Lord is Turiya Stitaha, always situated in transcendence. In transcendence there is no such thing as Jagarana, Nidra, Shushupti, wakefulness, sleep and deep sleep. So we should keep in mind that when we speak of these different forms of the Lord, they're always in this Turiya, transcendental state. But the living entities who desire sense gratification, who desire to enter into the material energy, then at this stage, they will be under this susupti, this deep sleep, this unconsciousness. And then there's an embodiment associated with it. There's, at this stage of creation, karana deha. Karana means causal. And this is equivalent, I was telling you before. When we speak of mind, there is the surface mind, our surface consciousness, which we're all operating in right now, I hope. I hope everyone is awake and aware of what's going on. But we have, like I said a few days ago, a kind of basement of the mind, which Prabhupada would call the subconsciousness. So this is the karana deha. Karana means causal. It's the root identity. So this is the subconsciousness in which all the desires are stored. All the desires are there, and so this manifests here at this stage. At Mahavishnu's state of creation, the living entities are in susupti, and the only materially manifest aspect of their identity is this karana deha. All the compact desires are there. And this is called in the Upanishads, this stage of creation, Mahat, or Prabhupada in a purport, Avyakta Mahatattva. So I told you what the Mahatattva is yesterday. I gave the example of backstage, all the props, all the ingredients necessary, like in 13th chapter of Gita are listed, what is it, 24? Is it 24 ingredients of creation? So this is, yes, typically, it's the list is sometimes different. There's sometimes different lists, sometimes it's 28. But generally, what we find mentioned again and again is 24. So this is, again, like active senses, knowledge-acquiring senses, mind, intelligence, false ego, sense objects, so on and so forth. And these add up to 24. So this is the Mahatattva, but Avyakta, it is unmanifest. It means it is not in use yet. It is not manifest for the use of the living entity yet. So it is in potential, just present potentially. Avyakta Mahatattva. Then, so this is important. So you see, I told you the other day about Vyasti Samasti. So there's a macrocosmic aspect to all this. This is the creation unfolding. But I'm also explaining to you here the microcosmic, how this is manifest in our own individual case, in our consciousness. So we are spirit soul. We are actually always Brahmabhuta in our essential identity. But because we have this inclination to be materially manifest, to have material activities, material identity, therefore, step by step, first Karanadeha, we get this root subconscious identity in which all the desires are compact, yet there is still no activity, not even subtle mental activity yet. All that's there is the root desires, smothered under primeval ignorance. This is like a coma state, you see? When one is in coma, or again, this dreamless sleep. The desires are there, everything is there, but it's all covered by ignorance. So this is at this stage. Then, the desires, they're there, and they, I pointed yesterday in the chart, this Kalasha, this time energy. So in time, the desires become stimulated. They want to manifest. This happens just by due course of time. So then, at that time, there is a next manifestation. So, Sankarshan expands as Pradumna, or Mahavishnu expands as Garbhodakasha Vishnu, known in the Upanishads as Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha, literally in Sanskrit, means golden womb. Garbha means womb or embryo. So golden, so just like a embryonic stage of the material body, it's within the womb. So here, Vyakta Mahatattva. So within the womb, and then gradually, all the whole body is manifest. All the senses, everything is there, but still not active. Manifest, but still not active yet. So this is the Hiranyagarbha stage, and this is called technically Taijasa. Oh yes, I have to say that what we're seeing here is the progression of the modes of nature too. I could read a purport. It slows me down to look for all these references, so you're just going to have to believe me that in Prabhupada's books this is explained, that this is the Tamo Guna. So the material creation, and you find this repeatedly again and again stated, and technically it is explained in this way. The material creation is first of all manifesting out of Tamo Guna. The ultimate background of this material existence is the mode of ignorance. And so the mode of ignorance is manifest here again. Karanadeha, Sankarshan, Mahavishnu. Also closely associated, probably even said non-different from Mahavishnu, is Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is actually a feature of Mahavishnu. as just like we said, we were reading from the purport that Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu himself, is above the modes of nature in Turiya, but Lord Shiva, he is the Tamoguna avatar. He is involved directly with the mode of ignorance. So those jivas who are in the mode of ignorance, in this susupti state, unconscious state, that means they are directly under the power of Lord Shiva. So he is the Mahadev, he is the first demigod. He's there before anything else is there in creation. Mahavishnu and Lord Shiva. Okay, so then the desires become stimulated by time. They want to manifest more. So Taijasa stage of creation, and this is equivalent to svapna, means dream. So when you dream at night, the body is not active, but the mind is active, and desires are manifesting in the mind. So this is the Vyakta Mahatattva. Again, this is like the baby in the womb, the embryo in the womb. Everything is there now. You see? Or what is it called? I forgot now. Embryo, fetus. Anyway, when the full form is there, when it's not just a lump of flesh, but head and eyes and all the features of the human body are there, but it's still within the womb. So this is the Taijasa stage, and this is speaking about ourselves individually. This is where the Linga Sharira, the subtle body, appears. And this again is associated with dream. So Prabhupada says, if you want to directly understand the subtle body, then just think of your dreams at night. Because when you sleep at night, your gross body is laying in the bed, not doing anything, but still you're conscious of activities, of moving about here and there, of interacting with others. And this is in the subtle stage, the dream stage. They call it the astral stage. And actually the subtle body in dreams, it leaves the gross body and moves around on the subtle plane. So this is Linga Sharira, this is a subtle stage of creation. And the culmination of this subtle stage of creation, this is when the Lord is manifesting. He's manifesting this Hiranyagarbha. It's a universal form, the subtle presentation of the universe. And at the end, Lord Brahma appears from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and he meditates and prepares himself for creation, and he uses this subtle manifestation, this Hiranyagarbha manifestation of the universal form. This is his blueprint for the work he does, which is the gross creation. All Lord Brahma is doing is in a gross physical way duplicating what is manifest in subtle existence. So yes, and this is the mode of passion. Taijasa actually refers to the mode of passion. This is mode of ignorance. Next stage is mode of passion. So we have to stress at this point about human nature. Human nature in the Bhagavatam is called Rajasvabhavena, which means human beings are primarily situated in the mode of passion. Human beings are not really, the next stage is wakefulness, Jagrata, but a human being is not really awake to what's really going on around him, because our minds are so active. And everything we perceive comes into the mind, and immediately the mind is working on it and placing it in different categories, which Prabhupada says, I mean, there are any number of purports where Prabhupada says that all this is simply imagination. Like Prabhupada says, for example, that when we choose our friends, at least in the material world, in material relationships, we choose friends. We think this one is a friend and someone else we say is an enemy. Prabhupada said this is all imagination. This is all simply the mind pigeonholing different perceptions. And this is dream. This is more or less just dreaming. And so of course, we insist very much in our human arrogance, no, this is reality, what I think is true, but it's not. And so this is largely the state of existence that human beings are in. They're dreaming while awake. Their emotions are, going all over the place. So we're not actually perceiving things clearly. So this is in the mode of goodness, the last stage, Jagrata. And the Sthula Sharira, the gross physical body, gross creation has become manifest. Lord Paramatma, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, he expands into the heart of every body to be there with the living entity. But real wakefulness means to be in the mode of goodness, you see. And so this is possible here at this stage. It's possible for us by utilizing the body and the mind as it is fully manifest in devotional service to come to the pure mode of goodness, and then from this mode of goodness rise up again to the Turiya stage, beyond the modes of nature, and in this way enter into the realm of pure Krishna consciousness. So, I think that's basically everything here. Yes, I want to read also from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 4, purport. Srila Prabhupada quotes from the Sattvata Tantra. This is a summary of what I've just presented to you. For material creation, Lord Krishna's plenary expansion assumes three Vishnus. The first one, Mahavishnu, creates the total material energy known as the Mahatattva. The second, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, enters into all the universes to create diversities in each of them. The third, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, is diffused as the all-pervading Supersoul in all the universes and is known as Paramatma. He is present even within the atoms. Anyone who knows these three Vishnus can be liberated from material entanglement. So I mentioned yesterday, we are passing in 24 hours through these three stages here. And actually our consciousness is always pervaded by Turiya, because the spirit soul is ultimately non-material, apart from the modes of nature. So actually we are always in touch with all of these states, you see. So we should, it's very nice to remember that these states of consciousness are associated with these forms of the Lord. So in our waking state, this is made possible, this waking state is made possible by the grace of Kshirodakshaya Vishnu in the heart. When we're dreaming at night, then this is the energy of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And when we're in deep sleep, unconsciousness, this is the energy of Mahavishnu. And if one rises above completely the influence of the modes of nature and comes into this unbroken state of consciousness of the Lord, then that is the Turiya state of Vasudeva consciousness. This is called Vasudeva Sattva by Srila Prabhupada, the pure mode of goodness. So these states of consciousness are going on within us. Every 24 hours we're passing through wakefulness, sleep, deep dreamless sleep. But all that is happening is that we are relating with the Supersoul and his energies. So one can achieve liberation by being aware of this, as we've just heard. Now, we want to press on. And here we come to the psychology, the psychological system of Bhakti Yoga. Now, I have to explain that this scheme that I'm presenting, everything is there in Prabhupada's books, but specifically this order of things is coming from Sripad Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya is, and Prabhupada, there's a purport in which Prabhupada is glorifying Ramanujacharya for his expert presentation of the soul's involvement with the Lord's energies in the form of the gross and subtle body. In other words, Ramanujacharya has very nicely detailed the psychology of the living entity in material nature, and by his teaching of Bhakti Yoga, he has shown us how to use the psychophysical body to free the soul from matter and go back home, back to Godhead. So this scheme and this terminology is actually from Ramanujacharya, but everything is there in Srila Prabhupada's books also. But this is very convenient to use this scheme. So, we start here with what are called the vikaras, the transformations of the mind, the different processes of the mind. And these are three. And Srila Prabhupada says this again and again and again. The three are thinking, feeling, and willing. Prabhupada calls these in a purport the psychological movements of the mind. So this is basically what we mean when we use this word psychology. We mean the mind's phases of thinking, feeling, and willing. So thinking means I am contemplating in a sort of abstract way, detached way, something. It's just being visualized in our mind. Feeling means the emotions kick in, because the mind is also the seat of emotions. So the emotions kick in and they energize these thoughts. They energize them. And then one really begins to, contemplate them, already tasting the thing in the mind. And then this leads to willing, where it has to be enacted. This thing that I've been thinking about, meditating on, and emoting about, and tasting on the subtle platform, now I have to actually go out and do it. So thinking, feeling, willing. Now, you see, I put feeling above the other two. Why? Because Ramanuja says that the feeling aspect of the mind, which in Western, also in Western psychology, this is known, this is admitted, these three phases. They give them fancy names: cognitive, affective, conative. It means the same thing. Cognitive, thinking; affective, like the word affection. It's the emotions. When you become affectionate to someone, it means the emotions are involved. And then conative. Conative means these active senses, physical senses. So, of the three, feeling, or the affective, is prominent, most prominent. In other words, thinking and willing are under the influence, under the control of the emotions. And this is the fact of our human existence, that even persons who claim to be, philosophers and totally rational, intellectual people, behind their thoughts, because when we assemble thoughts in our minds that we think are, it's a real, reasonable, logical thing to believe. This assembly of thoughts that we accept is actually on the basis of emotions. And other thoughts, other ideas we reject. We don't like them. And basically, that's what it means. We like these thoughts. This makes sense to us. So you see, really, it's the emotions that guide everything. And this is in perfect accordance with Krishna consciousness as we know it from Srila Prabhupada in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Because Prabhupada writes in the Introduction of Nectar Devotion that the ultimate guiding principle, the ultimate motivation in everyone's life, I explained the other day, is rasa, is taste. This is an emotional taste, an emotional and sensual taste. And that's behind everything. Prabhupada gives the example of someone becoming a communist, a revolutionary, and this has to do with his taste, his inclination, born of an emotional character, and also his punya, his degree of pious activities. So therefore he because he has impious activities, he's therefore attracted. His taste is for some atheistic doctrine like communism. So the communists, of course, they're not so, You don't meet too many of them anymore. But, but communists used to always pride themselves on being totally rational, intellectual. Everything is all worked out philosophically. But no, this is a product of emotionalism, and everything is. So this is very, very important in our understanding of psychology, that it is the feeling aspect of the mind that is most powerful, and it predominates our thinking and willing. So now coming over to thinking, this is the schema of the mind, and I'm always getting questions from our dear Padmasambhava Prabhu. He wants to know about structures of the mind, but I have something to say. Actually, we were talking about this today in the car, that we're presenting this schema, but it is a mistake to become, to view this mechanistically. It's a mistake. Padmasambhava Prabhu is often asking me about brain technology. And he's very much concerned with the relationship between mind and brain. And you see, the Western view of things, psychology and so on, is and that everything evolves from gross to subtle. That mind comes out of matter. Mind comes out of the brain. And the Vedic point of view is exactly opposite to that. So there's, it's really futile to try to build these kind of bridges from Vedic psychology to brain technology, because from our point of view, to look at the brain, the physical brain, try to pick it apart and find out from which part of the brain different thoughts are coming. This is like opening up the back of your radio, taking out all the chips and everything, and the old radios used to have tubes, whatever's in the back now, the wires, taking it all out, the printed circuits, and trying to find out, this is the part of the radio that plays music, and this is the part that plays news, and this is absurd, because the radio program is not originating in that box. It's subtle. It's coming through sound and ether from far away, and is being picked up, and this is what the brain is. The brain is just like a receiving instrument for the subtle body, the linga sharira. So this, what do they call it? Back technology. Trying to understand things from the gross thing that you have direct access to is not really going to work. So I'm just cautioning that please don't get too mechanistic in your understanding of this. So thinking, let's start with thinking department. So thinking is twofold. The process of thinking, there are two things involved. So one thing is anubhav, which means observation, and the other is smriti, which means memory. So observation and memory, either together or separately, they constitute thinking. You see, we can just observe things, look at things as they are, without memory being involved, and that will constitute thinking. Like looking at this painting and thinking it's very nice, it's very attractive, and you're not remembering anything you've seen before, you're just looking at this. Or you look at the painting and you think, I've seen other paintings like this, but not this particular color scheme. They're different colors, so this one is very interesting because it's more darkly reddish, than like that. So, but this is basically what thinking is about. There's observation and memory. So then observation. Observation means pratyaksha, anuman, and dibya pratyaksha. So what do these terms mean? Pratyaksha means direct perception. Prati-aksha. Aksha means the eyes. The eyes is representing the senses in general. The eyes, ears, tongue, nose, sense of taste. So we come near to things through our senses. Prati-aksha. So that means direct perception, seeing something through the eyes, hearing something through the ears. This is one way to observe. Then anuman means inference, and that is tarka, the use of logic. For example, if I'm in my room downstairs, the door closed, and I hear a familiar voice, Padmasambhava Prabhu's voice, and he's calling me, Maharaj, do you want something? And like he does. So, so I don't see him directly. I hear him, but I don't see his form. So, but by logic, I conclude that this is called seeing in the mind's eye. So by logic, I conclude that it's Padmasambhava on the other side of the door. Now, it could be someone else. It could be one of his sons playing a joke on me, who has a tape recorder with Padmasambhava's voice in it, and he's just holding it next to the door and playing the tape. That's what it could be. So you see this distinction between seeing directly and seeing through the mind's eye, so to speak, tarka, logic. But this is definitely a form of observation. Just like in modern science, everyone's been to school, so everyone's passed through science, and everyone's, you may have forgotten what they are, these terms, but everyone has certainly heard of the term, for instance, like electron or photon. These are referring to different subatomic particles. So electron, this is the basic unit of electricity. You see these cables, these electric wires with copper inside, and what they tell you is that electrons are moving. Electrons are moving through the copper wire, and this is providing energy to the device, a tape recorder, whatever it is that's working, video camera. But no one has ever seen an electron. Electron has never been seen by anyone. It's too small to be seen. And probably no one will ever see an electron, because the instrument that they have, which is bringing to the eye the tiniest objects, is the electron microscope, which uses electrons to reveal other objects. So you can't see the electron because it is a thing that is used to reveal other things. So anyway, no one has seen an electron, but by logic, by tarka, by observing phenomena, they have concluded that it's only logical to believe that there's such a thing as an electron, because it creates an effect. For example, in cloud, with the famous cloud chamber experiment, they have this cloud chamber, and you see these streaks left in the vapor inside, and they say this is the path of an electron. So something is moving, leaving a streak of condensation. So they call that thing electron. They've never seen what it is, but there's some evidence that something is moving at the speed of light through space. So they give it this name, electron. So this is observation by tarka, by logic, by inference. So it's a valid, in science, it's a valid form of observation, along with direct perception. And then divya pratyaksha. Divya pratyaksha means intuition. And divya literally means divine pratyaksha. So seeing through divine eyes. So everyone has intuition, but it's not very perfect because we're not very pure. We're not very, advanced in our spiritual development. But Ramanujacharya, he says, by practice of bhakti yoga, by purification, by the grace of the Lord, then this divya pratyaksha, this divine perception, becomes fully manifest. And so it's by divya pratyaksha, divine perception, divine eyes, just like Lord Krishna gives Arjuna divine eyes to see his universal form. So by divine eyes, divya pratyaksha, then the absolute truth is perceived directly. One gets spiritual, and one needs spiritual eyes to see Krishna. So the seed germ, the little stalk coming out of the ground of this divya pratyaksha is our present intuition. Everyone has some intuition. You meet someone, you have a feeling about a person. You have no evidence, no real evidence to think that this is a good or bad person, but you just have a feeling by his presence that I can trust this person, or better watch out. You have no, he hasn't done anything, said anything really to cause you to think that way. You just have a feeling. So this is the beginning of the Divya Pratyaksha. So these things make up thinking. And they're also involved in dream. What is dream? Svapna. So in the dream state, this pratyaksha, seeing things through the senses, is shut down. So the mind does not have access to the sense objects when we're sleeping at night. So the mind then observes with the help of smriti, remembrance, and also sometimes the intuition, divya pratyaksha. These come together. Anubhava, observation, as smriti. And so we in dreams we're viewing our memories. I think I explained this, and the mind freely mixes them up. And so therefore dreams become quite bizarre. And dreams can also involve memories from previous lifetimes. Things that we have not experienced in this life. And dreams can also be precognitive. When the divya pratyaksha intuition becomes involved, we can sometimes see into the future or realize other things which are beyond our present capacity of knowledge. Like, for example, I have a sort of personal experience of this, in the sense that one of my godbrothers, I haven't seen him for a long time, but I remember him from the 1970s, and his parents were quite famous people. His father and mother were, in America, well-known writers. And his father was actually the editor, I believe the editor of a well-known magazine. So they were quite, stellar people, so to speak, in American society. And he was their son, and he was a rather eccentric kind of person. So he became a devotee, and he was sort of fun to be with, because he had a very active mind and free association. He was very clever in a funny way, so it was interesting to talk. And he had a very good memory. Very good memory. He memorized verses by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So, with him you didn't have to read, you just listened to him recite verses and translations. He was really clever in that way. So anyway, his parents, unfortunately, in I think it was 78 or 79, they died in a terrible airplane crash, which happened at Chicago O'Hare Airport. The plane took off. It was a Boeing 727, 3 motors. The plane took off, and then while it was still above the runway, it flipped over on its back and fell down and exploded, and everyone was killed. So then when this, of course, this was big news. It was in all the newspapers of the whole country. And then in the days that followed, it came out, reporters discovered that in the days before the accident, someone had been phoning the Chicago O'Hare Airport and saying, I keep having a dream. He was saying night after night, he was, not just once, but he was having repeatedly a dream of an airplane taking off, flipping over on his back and falling. And so the reporters investigated, and they found it indeed that officials at the airport were saying, yes, we were getting these phone calls, and sometime before the accident, we recorded them. Someone was calling and saying he kept having this dream, but what can we do? Someone has a dream, what does it mean? But then an accident like that actually happened. So for me, this is pretty solid proof that precognitive dreams do happen. And in parapsychology and these kind of studies, they go into it deeply and list so many events of this happening. But Ramanujacharya, in his system of psychology, he offers an explanation for this. That this is intuition, and intuition, again, it's the immature stock of divine perception. And this is what we're cultivating in Krishna consciousness. We're cultivating our intuition, actually, purifying it, developing until it becomes the means by which we actually can see Krishna and his pastimes. So, oh yes, and I want to say, in relation to what I presented yesterday on the board, thinking is basically, you may find this interesting, about subject-object relation. This is what's going on in thinking. And this is explained very nicely by Ramanujacharya. Subject means Paramatma, because Paramatma is providing us with the means by which we can think and perceive and remember. This is all coming from Paramatma ultimately. So subject means Paramatma, then Atma, then mind, Manas, and then the objects of the senses, what we perceive. No, actually, I'm sorry. The senses themselves, the eyes, the ears. And object are the objects of the senses, what we see. So senses is eye and object is rupa, form. So subject again, Paramatma, Atma, mind and senses. Object are the tanmatras, the sense objects. And then relationship is the interaction between the two. This kind of creates a new reality. You see, there's a blending of subjectivity and objectivity. So this is what's going on in thinking. Speaking of that relation, that is also what's going on in dream too. Because in dream, the objects are not there directly. You see, again, our senses are shut down, so we're not directly seeing things. But we're still encountering our relationship with them in the dream. The memory of them is there. So therefore relation is counted as a point in this triad, this triangle. Subject-object relation. So this is what is involved in thinking. Now, feeling. Feeling, emotions. So Ramanujacharya says there are healthy and unhealthy emotions. And we find this in 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is speaking of Daivi Sampat, or divine qualities, and Asura Sampat. And Asura Sampat are mentioned emotional states like anger, like greed, like envy. So these are unhealthy emotions, befitting demons, asuras. So Ramanujacharya says healthy emotions, they culminate in love. This is a very nice definition of healthy emotion. Those emotions which flow into love. And Srila Prabhupada said, for example, talking about love, so the beginning appreciation of love even is there before we come to, the transcendental love considerations of prema bhakti and that. Prabhupada gave the example of mother's love for a child. This is healthy, this is good, this is positive. This is to be desired. And Srila Prabhupada actually said within the material sphere of emotions, mother's love for a child is relatively very pure. So we can, although we would say it's material, but there's still a gradation, and this is a more ideal form of emotion. So you see, emotions, they flow. If they're healthy, then they flow in that direction towards selfless love. A mother's love for her child is approaching selflessness. She will sacrifice everything for her child. A mother who really is attached, who really loves her child, she'll, for herself, perform great austerities and everything for the child. So this is moving in that direction of real love. So then Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, is again a cultivation of this, of purification, bringing out the healthy emotions, bringing out that love that is there in potential in our heart, bringing it out, clarifying it, removing all impurities, until it becomes, oh yes, I should mention down here, the yogas, bhakti yoga. So the specific yogas, there are specific yogas for each of these mental functions. And I have to jump back to thinking because I forgot to mention this. So for thinking, the yogas which bhakti offers to our thought processes to engage them in Krishna consciousness and purify them are viveka and arjava. Viveka means proper discrimination. It means simply seeing the difference between Maya and Krishna. This is viveka. That there are cognitive processes which are pro-Krishna, which are bring us closer to Krishna, and there are cognitive processes which take us away from Krishna. So viveka means to see between the two, and arjavam means honesty. Honesty. Because cheating is taking place here. One uses one's thought, one's cognition for cheating, for sizing people up, making a plan. So in Bhakti Yoga, one should be honest. One should not cheat. One should be honest about oneself. One should be honest with others. So then this results in pure thought processes. So now we've been explaining feeling. So here the yogas for feeling, outkantya, this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, a term. Ramanujacharya, he uses a word vimukha for the same thing. But I couldn't find that word in the Bhagavatam, so I picked the one that's there. It means the same thing, outkantya, longing for the Lord. This is, again, viraha. This is what Lord Chaitanya teaches. Vipralamba. This longing for Krishna in separation. This is the ultimate culmination of loving emotions. To always be yearning, longing for Krishna. So this is what Bhakti Yoga is inculcating in the emotions. Along with that, there are supportive emotional states. Like kalyana. Kalyana means well-wishing towards other living entities. Daya means to be merciful to other living entities. This motivates our preaching, kalyana. And daya, ahimsa, not liking to do any violence, to see any harm come to any living being. Ahimsa. And anavasara means a joyful state. One is, like Srila Prabhupada says, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. You see, and being happy is actually the proof that we're chanting Hare Krishna properly, really chanting. So this is a key feature of the emotional life of a devotee, that he's blissful, he's happy, satisfied. So these are the yogas which Bhakti gives to the emotions to engage them, to bring them to Krishna. And then the third is willing. So willing, of course, means use of our power of choice, our free will. And so there are two. Choice means two options. One is to choose defiance of Krishna, to act in defiance of Lord Krishna's order. Krishna says this, but I'm going to do that. That results in karma. Then for those kind of activities,